Harry Potter and Anakin Skywalker were the two chosen ones in their respective worlds. Both were courageous, flawed, and willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of others. But what if their worlds collided? What if Harry Potter was in Star Wars? How would this change both worlds? As you're about to see, a lot changes. The only assumption we're going to make here is that Harry has no knowledge of Anakin's world. So we're going to start in the Deathly Hallows, where Harry is struggling in his search for the Horcruxes. Not only was he struggling, but his faithful holy wand had been broken, and Ron had left him and Hermione after an argument. Now in the Forest of Dean, Harry was thinking of his next move, in hope rather than expectation. But then, Harry sees two white lights in the distance. Raising Hermione's wand, he casts a beam of light and heads towards the larger light first. Walking towards it, he sees the ghost of a figure that he had never seen before, looking straight at him. Harry tightened his grip on Hermione's wand. "Who are you?" asked Harry towards the mysterious ghostly figure. The figure announced himself to be Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn. Harry had no clue what a Jedi Master was, but it seemed to be a rank of some significance. Qui-Gon then surprised Harry, telling him how he was losing the war against Voldemort and needed additional assistance were he to turn it around. Whilst Harry was normally stubborn and wanted to do everything himself, recent events had opened his mind to being assisted by others. Qui-Gon then proposed an offer which would shake the fate of both worlds. Qui-Gon offered for Harry to give assistance in his world, in return for assistance in Harry's world. Harry thought to himself, could he leave his friends behind? Was this a risk worth taking? Glancing at the remnants of his broken wand in Hagrid's pouch, there was only one option. Accepting Qui-Gon's request, Harry was further surprised when Qui-Gon levitated his broken wand and put the parts together. When Harry asked how Qui-Gon could achieve such magic, Qui-Gon merely smiled, levitating Hermione's wand back to the tent. He then gestured to an old boot, and with a tentative prod, Harry ascended away from the forest. After what seemed a long time, Harry landed on the ground. Looking up, he saw objects zooming past overhead in tall buildings. This was a city of some sort, thought Harry to himself. Getting up, Harry looked around for Qui-Gon, but he was nowhere to be found. Walking along a dimly lit street, he muttered a string of curses to himself, wondering how he could have been that desperate that he could have succumbed to this trap. He should have chosen the other light. Before he could drown in his self-pity any further, a scruffy-looking figure walked up to him. Harry gripped his newly repaired wand a little tighter, but sensed no danger from the man. The man introduced himself as Jedi Master Quinlan Vos, and then gestured for Harry to follow him as they made their way through the network of streets, walking past an array of species Harry had never known. Was he even on the same planet anymore? He thought to himself. Taking a turbo lift, far quicker than anything Harry had ever experienced, they made their way towards the top of the city. Now looking over the city, Harry could see a giant structure, dominating the landscape, appearing to be a temple of some kind. Eventually reaching the temple, Harry could see a lot of young children in the courtyard, appearing to be fencing with laser swords. This was definitely not magic, Harry thought to himself again. Entering the temple, Harry found it hard not to be amazed at the sheer scale of the building. It made Hogwarts' Great Hall look like a small shed. Harry and Quinlan made their way to a meditation chamber, where Harry saw a small green figure waiting for them. As Quinlan bowed, the figure introduced himself as Yoda, and recalled to Harry how Qui-Gon had contacted him as part of the Living Force. Harry could instantly see why Yoda was so well respected. He managed to exude an aura of intelligence, power, and yet humility. For the next hour or so, Harry asked questions about Yoda's world, and what he needed to do to complete Qui-Gon's deal. This would be a challenge. Meanwhile, back in the Forest of Dean, Hermione woke up. Getting up, she saw no sign of Harry, only a small note, with her wand, telling her how he would be back soon. Hermione sighed in resignation, as she collapsed back onto her bed. Harry had done the stupid thing again and tried to be the hero, Hermione thought to herself as she planned her next move. Now without Harry and Ron, Hermione was running out of ideas, not that Ron was doing much anyway. Fortunately, Harry had left his invisibility cloak behind, allowing Hermione to travel as much as she wanted to. Taking a look back at the mysterious symbols she had found in the Tales of the Beedle Bard, she made up her mind, and apparated away from the Forest of Dean. Back on Coruscant, Harry faced a new challenge. Without his invisibility cloak, he would somehow need to sneak his way around a new universe, and find the identity of someone called a Sith Lord. Whilst listening intently to Yoda, the voice of Qui-Gon could be heard once more. Qui-Gon tells Harry how his friends would be safe for the foreseeable future, as Voldemort was too self-centered to finish the war without the downfall of Harry. Qui-Gon also tells Harry that he needs to be wary of all that goes on around him, as he continues in his quest to look for the Sith Lord. As Qui-Gon disappears, Harry doesn't even pretend to be annoyed as he grit his teeth. He always had to take the difficult route, Harry thought to himself. But then again, his life had never been easy. Thinking like Hermione, Harry headed straight to the library, where he encountered an elderly woman who had been expecting him. Introducing herself as Jedi Master Jocasta Nu, Harry was led to a darker section of the library. The structure of the library was similar to Hogwarts, except everything was scaled much larger. Coming across to the recommended section, Harry picked out some books, hoping to get an understanding of what was going on in his universe. Reading was never Harry's strong suit, but as he read many of these scriptures and tomes, he began to gain an understanding of what was happening. He could see that the galaxy had heavily been dominated by politics in recent years, and as he read through the reports, he became drawn to one name. That name was Ego Damas II. Harry may have not been a banker, but he saw some unusual and unnamed withdrawals. With Madame Jocasta unable to shed any light on the matter, Harry headed back to Master Yoda's quarters. Yoda is slightly concerned at how the Jedi Council had not spotted this before, and together with Harry, they head to meet with Chancellor Valorum, who oversaw some of the activities of the intergalactic banking clan. Valorum is also unable to shed any light, except that the Damas clan was operating in secrecy, and Master Sifo Dyas had been closely connected to some of their transactions. For now, they had reached a dead end. But as they headed back to the Jedi Temple, Yoda felt a surge through the Force. Yoda immediately turned around, surprising Harry, who did not know Yoda was capable of moving at such speed, and back to Chancellor Valorum's home. In the courtyard, where they had spoken just a few minutes earlier, lay the body of Chancellor Valorum, with a hole through his chest. As Yoda summoned temple guards to cordon off the area, Yoda also stepped closer to inspect the body. The wound appeared to be that of a lightsaber. Clearly someone had been listening to them, and did not want Valorum to reveal any potential secrets. But Yoda knew they had just stepped a little closer to finding out the identity of the Sith Lord. Back in the wizarding world, Voldemort is furious. He had been trying for months to get a hold of Harry Potter, but had failed to do so. Now with his disappearance, the war would be prolonged a little longer, until we could finally rid the world of the pesky little half-blood. As Nagini trailed his long cloak, he stood from his chair, and took a long glance along the table of Death Eaters, who were ready for his words, and raising his wand, unleashed a blasting curse to the whole table, sending the Death Eaters into the walls, as Voldemort and Nagini walked out of the room. Harry was oblivious to Voldemort's outrage in the wizarding world, as he was in the midst of an investigation into the murder of Chancellor Valorum. Whilst Harry was a skilled duelist and Quidditch player, he lacked subtlety, as Snape liked to put it. Even thinking about that greasy-haired traitor made Harry scowl. Heading back to the Jedi Temple with Yoda, Harry entered a new corridor, decorated with tall pillars and a wide staircase. Even without Harry's research, he knew this was a place of some significance. 2 Jedi Sentinels beckoned the duo into a room, which consisted of 12 chairs placed around a fern-patterned ring. This was the Jedi Council chamber. Looking around, Harry could feel the power radiating off the Jedi Council members as they eyed him for the first time, wondering what he was doing here. As Yoda took his place in the seat of the Grand Master, he began to speak about what he had witnessed, as well as revealing Harry's role. Although there had been some rumours about Harry appearing in the temple, This was the first time the full story had been told to all the council members. Obi-Wan stroked his beard in mock curiosity as he glanced towards his Padawan Anakin and Anakin's Padawan Ahsoka, who stood beside Harry. But the mood immediately changed with the mentioning of Qui-Gon as the council members leaned forwards in their chairs, learning about how their former friend had transcended the living force. The council meditated in response to the recent events as Anakin, Ahsoka, and Harry left the chamber, and for the first time, the two chosen ones were face to face. The duo introduced themselves awkwardly as Ahsoka grinned at her master's discomfort. Despite Harry not being force sensitive, Anakin could see why Harry had come to their world. His facial features were that of an intense determination that was similar to his own when he was in battle. Harry, meanwhile, found Anakin to be similar to what he had heard of his father, confident in his own abilities and compassionate. This was someone he could cooperate with. Anakin headed off to Padme's apartment with Ahsoka, but Harry was summoned back to the Jedi Council chamber as they had finished their meditation. They decided that no one must know of Harry's presence, not even the Senate. From Harry's brief reading session in the Jedi archives, this made sense, given the corruption within the Senate. However, just like with Dumbledore, Harry was again a weapon in a system, something he detested. As Harry's rage simmered, the wand in his hand sparked into life, emitting red sparks, shocking the Jedi Council members. They had only heard about such magic from the Night Sister clan on Dathomir. This Harry Potter person was no ordinary human being. Qui-Gon had sent Harry for a reason. The council asked Harry to demonstrate his magical prowess, to which Harry uses the charm Orchideus to conjure a bunch of flowers, impressing the council members. Mace Windu then attacks Harry with a gentle force push, seeing how Harry would react. Harry, having had years of experience fighting Dark Lords, senses danger to his side, and with a flick of his wand, summons a shield charm, repelling the Kareem Master's attack. The council are now confident that Harry is capable of defending himself, and tasks him with finding more about Ego Damas II, hoping this would lead them to the Sith Lord, providing Harry with any necessary assistance upon his request. With a quick bow, Harry heads back to the home of Chancellor Valorum, hoping to find any further clues. Meanwhile, in Palpatine's office, its sole occupant could be seen with a frown upon his normally calm exterior as he conversed with his apprentice. Sidious and Dooku had sensed a disturbance in the Force, but the normally predictable Jedi had not revealed anything thus far. Sidious dispatched Dooku to uncover this mystery, with the help of Grievous if needed, having already dispatched of Chancellor Valorum. For Sidious, any loose ends needed to be eliminated as soon as possible, but with Anakin on a string, he knew any Jedi secrets would be revealed to the Sith. While Sidious was contemplating the latest development in the Force, an oblivious Anakin was with Ahsoka and Padme, discussing the latest activity in the Senate. The murder of Chancellor Valorum had brought about much suspicion as to who was the mastermind behind the plot, with many pointing towards Count Dooku, given the forensic evidence presented thus far. Senator Amidala began work behind the scenes in order to expose the Separatists by recruiting trustworthy senators to join her cause. However, progress had been difficult thus far, given the Jedi had been less credible throughout the Clone Wars, as well as the CIS's vast control. Padme tasked Ahsoka with talking to Senator Chuchi of Pantora, as she knew Pantora would need convincing from their peaceful position. Once Ahsoka left, Anakin's face growled as he grilled Padme on Senator Clovis. Given the Jedi Council's recent uncovering into the suspicious dealings of Ego Damas II, as well as Senator Clovis's connections with the intergalactic banking clan, Anakin wondered if Padme could shed more light on the matter. Padme could only say that Clovis had been raised by a banker of the Moon species, whom had been in the same family as Ego Damas II. This was something Anakin had to tell Harry Potter about. Dashing away from Padme's apartment, Anakin finds Harry sifting through various files containing documentation of the intergalactic banking clan. Anakin informs Harry about the latest development concerning Clovis, and suggests to Harry that they should go to the planet of Skippy Oh and interrogate him. Fortunately for the duo, Harry had just found documents concerning the Damas clan, and some of the activities within the intergalactic banking clan. Not much is written of the Damask clan, except that all activities stopped in the same year that Anakin stopped the blockade and invasion of Naboo. Quickly gathering up any further relevant documentation, the duo headed off to Skippy Oh with Padme. Although Anakin despised Padme being anywhere near Clovis, she was the best negotiator he knew besides Obi-Wan, and he'd be able to prize any piece of information from him. Back in the wizarding world, the hunt is on for Harry Potter. The Ministry of Magic, now controlled by Voldemort, places a bounty of 1 million galleons for information leading to the location of Harry Potter. As a result, Hermione moves from forest to forest, despite Harry's request to stay in the Forest of Dean, after several close encounters with Snatchers and Death Eaters. Hermione was running out of resources, but one day, she feels a burning in her right trouser pocket. Rummaging around, she finds an enchanted coin. But not just any enchanted coin, but the one she had made in her 5th year with the use of a protean charm. Turning the coin onto its edge, its numerals were replaced with the words, Hulk's Head. Hermione gasped as she saw the first sign of hope for a long time. She rapidly packs her belongings into a drawstring bag, and apparates into the outskirts of Hogsmeade. Placing a disillusionment charm on herself, Hermione was fortunate to avoid the swarm of Dementors as she made her way into the Hog's Head. Entering the dimly lit building, she undoes her disillusionment charm, before her legs are suddenly engulfed by a small creature. Looking down, she sees Dobby, in a mismatch of knitwear, guiding her to the main bar area. A barman turns around, and meets her with his piercing blue eyes. Without a word, he gestures to a lady in a painting, who swings open, revealing a long passageway. Dobby hops in first, his feet bouncing with excitement, with Hermione close behind. After what seemed like hours, a large but unspectacular door was before them. With a gentle push, the door swung open, revealing a massive room. Hermione hears shouts of her name, but all she could think about was how narrow-minded she was that she had not thought about the room of requirement. Refocusing herself, she sees a tired-looking Neville, who is happy to see her. Neville is shocked at seeing Hermione, having expected her to be hiding with Harry, but he knows she is here for a reason. Hermione requested to see Luna, but to her surprise, the room falls silent. Neville breaks the silence by telling Hermione how Luna had been captured by the Death Eaters just before Christmas, and they had no clue as to her location. Hermione sighed as she played with the enchanted coin in her pocket. She hoped Harry would be back soon. Harry was oblivious to Hermione's wistful thoughts, as he, Anakin, and Padme entered the atmosphere of the planet of Skippy Oh, as they sought to find more information about the past activities of the intergalactic banking clan. Landing upon the planet, Harry's instincts told him something was amiss, but he could not discover what. Chancing a glance at Anakin beside him, he could tell that his feelings mirrored his own. Exiting the shuttle, Harry felt a chill surround him, as the cold air of the mountainous terrain coursed through his skin. Whereas Anakin and Padme put on heavy jackets, Harry placed a hot air charm on himself to keep himself warm, as Clovis greeted the duo, with 2 guards either side of him. Heading to the headquarters of the intergalactic banking clan, Padme distracted Clovis, whilst the 2 most unsubtle people in the galaxy headed for the vault, hoping to look for any clues. Anakin and Harry are able to subdue the moon guards easily, and persuades one of the guards to open the vault. Entering the vault, they see towers of data samples as Harry looked at Anakin, questioning where to begin. Anakin wondered, what would Obi-Wan do in this situation? He thought to himself. Anakin quickly adopted a meditative pose, as Harry looked on in bemusement, as time ticked by. After a moment, Anakin's eyes opened, and he shot up, dashing through the maze of towers, with Harry trying hard to keep pace. Finally, Anakin reached the disc he was looking for, and the duo headed for the exit. Harry stopped, and put a disillusionment charm on Anakin himself as they reopened the door. To Harry and Anakin's surprise, not only were the guards not attacking them, but they had disappeared altogether. Undoing the disillusionment charm on each other, Harry looked at Anakin in confusion, wondering what had happened to the guards. Anakin frowned and led Harry across the building, coming across to a dining area. Not for the first time that day, their eyes were met by an odd sight. The guards were all seated in the chairs, yet they were all stone cold, with identical holes through their chests. Anakin stepped closer to inspect the wounds. They were all perfectly circular lightsaber wounds, with no blood spilt. Anakin's face toughened, realizing there was only one person capable of such precise attacks. Instinctively, Anakin ignited his lightsaber, and Harry brandished his wand as they crept towards the end of the table, which was more dimly lit than the entrance of the room. Suddenly, a red lightsaber ignited vertically in front of a face. The face was that of Count Dooku. Harry had no clue as to the intentions of the man in the red lightsaber, but he knew they weren't good. "Dooku," Anakin quietly muttered, as he assumed his battle stance. Quickly hiding himself with a disillusionment charm, he saw a white light sparking from the fingertips of Dooku, which Anakin used his lightsaber to block. Dooku then stopped his force lightning and initiated a lightsaber attack. Harry had been in numerous encounters with Death Eaters and Voldemort, but he had seen nothing like this. Harry could only admire the speed and skill of the two swordsmen, who majestically fended off each other's attacks with blocks, and attempted to create openings. Harry tried to find an angle of attack, but the duel was merely a blur. Fortunately, Anakin manages to force push Dooku, giving Harry an opening. Harry lets out a string of non-verbal hexes, as Dooku stumbles further back, grasping his face as the stinging hex begins to disfigure it. Anakin attempts to lunge at Dooku, but out of the shadows emerge several Magna Guards, blocking their path, allowing Dooku to escape through the rear exit. As the duo dispose of the final Magna Guard, Anakin speeds off to where Dooku exited, with Harry in pursuit. Unfortunately, they arrive too late, as they watch Dooku's solar sailor vanish into the clouds. Anakin lets out a noise of irritation at seeing Dooku escape, as they take the turbo lift to Clovis's office. Once inside, the room is eerily quiet, but two voices could be heard in the distance. The duo surge towards the voice and break down a back door, as they see Clovis conversing with the hologram of Dooku. Hearing someone barge through his door, Clovis immediately turns off the holocom. He is met by Anakin's face of fury. If Harry didn't already know why Anakin was the chosen one, he knew now. The anger on his face could kill someone with a stare. "Where is Padme?" growled Anakin, holding Clovis by the lapels on his shirt. Clovis smirked. As Anakin begins to force choke Clovis, Harry realized this would in fact achieve nothing. Pleading with Anakin to stop, Anakin reluctantly complied, as Harry cast an imperious curse upon Clovis. Anakin quickly clocked onto what Harry was doing, and used the force to break down the shields, and enter Clovis's mind. Anakin saw visions of Clovis's guards taking Padme away to Dooku's ship, as Clovis merely looked on. Finally exiting his mind, Clovis collapsed to the ground in pain, as Anakin took the holocom, and with one last look of disgust at Clovis, headed with Harry back to the shuttle, now in pursuit of Padme. Once aboard, Anakin immediately contacted the Jedi Council, and all Jedi were placed on high alert, as a result of the kidnapping of Senator Amidala. Anakin's visible anguish did not go unnoticed by Obi-Wan, who saw something more was concerning his Padawan. This was something they would have to discuss later. Back on the ship, Anakin tries to remain calm, wondering where Dooku could have taken her. Given the limited fuel tank of Dooku's solar sailor, it was unlikely that he had travelled into the inner rim, unless he refueled. Suddenly, an idea pops into Anakin's head. It was risky, but since when had Anakin been adverse to taking risks? Anakin turned the ship around, causing Harry to slide into one of the walls of the ship, as Anakin reset the coordinates to the planet of Valorum. It was time to be reunited with his old pirate friend. If only Obi-Wan could be here, he would be able to negotiate his way through anything, Anakin thought to himself. Even though Dooku's relations with the Weequay pirates was not the best, Anakin knew Dooku was looking for retribution, and delivering a Republic senator would go some way to achieving just that. Despite Anakin's immense piloting skills, the duo felt as if they were late arriving to the planet. Landing a reasonable distance away from the main cantina, they expect this is the last time they would see their ship. Knowing the devious nature of the pirates, Anakin sprints into the main cantina and confronts Hondo in a manner which would make Obi-Wan frown. Fueled by his anger, Anakin uses his hand to lift Hondo into the air, as the other pirates turn their plundered blasters at Anakin. Harry casts a powerful shield charm onto them, in case they would shoot, but Hondo points to a back room. Anakin releases him, as Hondo grabs his throat, and they finally find Padme chained to a wall with handcuffs. Anakin sees Padme has managed to undo one of the cuffs, but had fallen into a trance before undoing the other. Harry quickly undoes the other cuff with an unlocking charm, as Anakin carries Padme back to their ship. To their surprise, their ship is still there, but upon entering it, they sense something is amiss. Going back outside to inspect the ship rumbles, and they retreat in time, watching it detonate, sending pieces of shrapnel across the landscape, and turning their worlds to black. Across the galaxy, Hermione does not sense Harry's pain, as she and Dumbledore's army are focused on looking for Luna Lovegood. The group have no clues, but they now have the advantage of having the smartest witch of their age. Hermione proposes to interrogate a Death Eater, as she feels that they will be bound to know the location of Luna. Furthermore, albeit reluctantly, she requests a group of Hogwarts elves, who are looking thoroughly weathered, to search for the Ravenclaw. Whilst this is happening, Hermione has also been sneaking away around Hogwarts, and more importantly, Severus Snape, managing to steal Bygone Horn, the Suing Flies, and the Skin of Boomslang from his old potion storage cupboard as she attempts to brew a batch of Veritaserum. Hermione knew they would take exactly 28 days to brew. She just hoped that Luna would be able to keep herself alive. With the potion brewing, Hermione also delves into teaching Dumbledore's army new defensive spells and hexes, unbeknownst to the Carrows and Snape, using her experience to also sharpen the instincts of the duelists. As Harry had told them previously, it was not just about regurgitating a textbook. The rumoured requirement was also able to provide a variety of arenas, from open areas to enclosed forests, allowing the army to hone their skills. Hermione hoped they would be enough to keep them alive when the inevitable battle began. For now, Hermione needed to keep a level head until Harry came back. The more she thought about her friend, the more she wondered whether Harry was trying to be the hero after all. Any news of Harry would have surely been scattered over the corrupt Daily Prophet, and Potterwatch would have likely sent a coded message. Was it possible that Harry was abroad? She had heard him talk about Voldemort's previous escapades in Albania. But from what Harry had said, Voldemort liked to associate Horcruxes with memorable places. Was it possible then that Harry was trying to recruit foreign forces? The attempt of recruiting the Giants by Hagrid and Madame Maxime had been questionable at best, and the dragons were now strictly controlled by the Ministry. With limited access to communication out of Hogwarts, Hermione's thoughts on Harry could not be extended any further to actions. For now, her focus remained on Luna. For days, Hermione patiently waited for a potion to brew, before suddenly, Hermione was broken out of her state of frustration by several pairs of eyes, all the size of tennis balls. The Hogwarts elves had returned from their searching of the lost Ravenclaw, with good news and bad news. The good news was that Luna had resisted the torture of Death Eaters, and remained alive. However, the bad news was that she was currently in an unplottable location, which made it difficult for Hermione to stage any kind of rescue. Even the elves with their own branch of magic were unable to source the location. Slightly more reassured than before, Hermione returns to her potion, in the hopes that Death Eater will be able to reveal the location of Luna. Meanwhile, Harry awoke in familiar surroundings. Rubbing his eyes, he saw that he was in a hospital of some kind. Ignoring the various aches and pains that circulated through his body, he turned to his left-hand side, and saw Anakin, in a similar state to himself, lying on a bed, with Padme sitting by his side. Harry frowned, wondering what had happened to Anakin and himself. The last thing he remembered was walking back to their ship. Clearing his parched throat, he manages to get the attention of Padme, who rushes over to Harry, looking devoid of sleep. Harry asks for an account of what had happened, as Padme recalls the ship exploding, with Anakin and Harry bearing the brunt of the impact. Fortunately, Padme managed to stay conscious, and contacted the Jedi Council, who sent 2 masters from nearby planets to pick up the trio from the clutches of the pirates. Even in this world, he couldn't avoid trouble, Harry thought to himself. Now at one of Coruscant's medical facilities, Anakin and Harry had no time to lose. Vaulting up from their beds, disregarding the nurses and medical droids, they limp off to the Jedi Council with Padme in close pursuit. Upon arriving, Obi-Wan is standing at the entrance and shakes his head in disapproval, seeing the condition Anakin and Harry are in, as he leads them to the Jedi Council chambers. Once inside, the Masters are waiting, keen to share the present details of the investigation into the attempted murder of the trio. Thus far, they have found that the explosive was a variant of a beradium core axidite detonator, capable of atomizing upon timed intervals. As far as the Council were aware, the Republic had not sanctioned such weaponry before. Anakin and Harry raised their eyebrows at that comment. In recent times, the Council had been blind to a lot of matters pertaining to the Republic, and they were most certain this was another one. The duo head out of the Council chambers and meet up with Ahsoka, who had finished her discussions with Senator Chuchi, and together they head to the Blast Tech Industries factories on Coruscant, which was one of the 3 main munition suppliers for the clone army. Although normally a manufacturer of blasters, they had recently been looking into the development of detonators in order to rival Merson munitions, but not the type of detonator which had exploded Anakin's ship. Anakin and Harry had expected this, as the Council would have found out otherwise. As a result, they head for the clone mess hall to look for Captain Rex, one of the only reliable sources in the galaxy at this point. Rex reveals that General Pong Krell had mentioned these types of detonators to him in passing, as he planned to use them for the upcoming battle in Umbara. It was time to pay a visit to the Besserless Jedi Master. After a short sprint, Anakin and Harry found themselves at the door of Jedi Master and General Pong Krell. Anakin orders Ahsoka to stay with the Council in case anything went amiss. With a gentle swipe of his hand, Anakin allowed himself and Harry into the room, as Krell turned to face them, his arms confidently behind his back. For a moment, he looked at Harry with a glare, before addressing General Skywalker. Anakin immediately asserts his authority, circling Pong Krell as he begins his interrogation on the detonators. Krell informs his fellow Jedi that Rex was misinformed, and they must have suffered from a defect to think of such an item. Anakin is not impressed by Krell's excuse, and ignites his lightsaber. Krell mockingly laughs, as he uses his hands to violently force push Anakin and Harry into the walls, before igniting his 2 double-bladed lightsabers. Now he would see if Anakin's reputation as one of the most fearsome warriors in the Jedi Order was justified. Anakin picked himself back up, as Harry also prepared himself for an attack. Krell began to swing his lightsabers violently, as Anakin could not use his Gemso technique to overpower the Besserlisk opponent. Harry cast a quick Incarcerus at Krell, temporarily binding him with ropes, but the Besserlisk tore them apart with his immense strength. Harry then cast a Conjunctivitis Curse, but again, Krell deflected this with ease. Harry then opted for a riskier approach. Casting a Disillusionment Charm on himself, he snuck behind Krell, who was preoccupied by Anakin, and unleashed a Laceration Curse into the torso of Krell, managing to irritate the Jedi, causing him to be momentarily distracted, and allowing Anakin to cut his shoulder. Krell allowed himself to step back and re-evaluate the duel. Anakin was stronger than he thought, and this Harry Potter human was no novice either. He had to get back to his new master, to tell him of this development. Spinning his lightsabers to create a whirlwind effect, Anakin and Harry ducked, as Krell vaulted out the window with a large force jump, and into the distance. Anakin staggered to his feet, growling and letting the traitor get away, and helped Harry back to his feet after seeing him in his human form again. Together, they looked around the room, looking for any connections that Krell may have had to the dark side. They saw nothing out of the ordinary, except a version of the detonator which had nearly killed them. Anakin thought for a moment, thinking of Obi-Wan. Maybe a certain basilisk friend could identify the detonator, Anakin thought to himself. Rushing out of the room, Anakin sends a quick message to Ahsoka to notify the Council of Krell's betrayal and escape, and with Harry, they head off to Dex's diner. Beckoning themselves inside, they are greeted by the amicable and shrewd basilisk. As far as he was concerned, any friend of Obi-Wan was his friend too. Similar to what Obi-Wan had done, Anakin and Harry show Dex the detonator, and again, he's able to direct them to Kamino, having had experience there in his days as a prospector. This was not a coincidence, Anakin pondered to himself. Thanking their friend, the duo made their way back to the council chambers and meet up with Ahsoka. Giving a debrief of their encounter, the council was stunned at the full revelation of events. They had always thought of Krell as a Jedi with different views, but not to this extent. Another lost Jedi, Yoda thought sadly to himself. This was becoming far too common of an occurrence to be a coincidence. Sending them off to Kamino, the duo would eventually make it to the Planet of Storms, alongside a legion of clone troopers, as Anakin ordered a thorough search of the cloning facility. Anakin and Harry searched through the records, and yet again, they found the name of Damask, but this time, Damask III. This was a new development. They had thought Damask II had been the last of the Damask clan, but clearly, they were wrong. Using a quick flag rate charm, Harry attempted to rearrange the name, but to no avail. From what he knew about this Darth Sidious, it would not be revealed that easily. Heading back to Coruscant, Anakin and Harry, armed with this new piece of information, head for the Jedi archives. Putting some of the previous pieces together, the duo look for the events during the tenure of Chancellor Valorum, as well as his predecessor Skor Kalpana. As they looked through the array of HoloNet transmissions, they saw the circulation of a myth of a planet in the Korean sector, residing in the Outer Rim. Alongside this mysterious planet hovered the name of the Damask clan. Without wanting another wild goose chase, the duo head for Jedi Master Terra Sunube, who had access to a large database. Master Sunube cannot confirm the existence of the planet, but has heard rumours from the Coruscant underworld about the planet being like the notorious Citadel. Those without an invitation did not make it out alive. To Anakin and Harry, this was seen as a challenge. Taking the smallest starfighter available, the duo, alongside R2-D2, headed off to the coordinates of the Korean sector, as Anakin used the Force to guide him to the mysterious moon. Entering its clouds, the duo are able to make out the tops of what appeared to be remains of fortified buildings, littered amongst the green flora. Upon landing, Harry used several human presence revealing spells around him, but he couldn't find anyone, only exotic creatures. Going deeper into the planet, Anakin and Harry stumble across a variety of massive craters, caused by heavy bombing in recent times. Walking around the remains of one of the buildings, Anakin discovers the body of Sung guards, whom Padme had previously recorded kidnapped her in Coruscant's underworld. With Harry's help, Anakin clears the debris, and together, they venture inside what appeared to be the largest fort in the area. With their improvised lighting, Anakin and Harry make out strange carvings on the walls that they wished Obi-Wan was here to translate. There was also the unmistakable stench of blood and meat in the air. Heading down some steps to a crypt, Harry unlocked a heavy door, and the duo entered. As the door slammed shut behind them, the duo came across a bizarre sight. Standing on its own in the room was a manuscript, placed on a vulgar lectern with black ink dripping from its sides. Turning the pages with the Force, in case it was a trap, Anakin looked closer. It was a history book of some kind, only it contained information on the Sith. Fast forwarding to the most recent chapters, Anakin's eyes widened as he saw what the Sith grand plan was. In other words, a plan to destroy the whole Jedi Order. As R2 took records of the manuscript, the door behind them suddenly opened, causing Harry to jump. A figure wearing long robes entered. Anakin raised his lightsaber, illuminating the figure's face. It appeared to be a young man, not too much older than Anakin, but radiated intelligence. As his eyes met Anakin's, he gestures to the book and then points to himself. As R2 finished taking pictures of the book, Anakin levitates the book into the hands of the figure, who then placed his right hand on the front of the book, opening a hatch below the floor, as Anakin and Harry fall in. As the roof closes in, Anakin and Harry now knew why those without invitation did not leave the planet alive, looking at the corpses around them. Anakin attempted to use his lightsaber to cut a hole in the roof, but it was too solid. After all, this place was designed to make Jedi rot. Never had it housed these two, however. Anakin prodded the walls with his lightsaber, and found one of them to be weaker than the others. Harry needed no invitation to blast the wall open, revealing a wider chamber. Now all they had to do was find a way back up. But as Harry used his 4-point spell, R2 beeped wildly, as they heard a stampede of footsteps above. As Anakin looked for other ways back to the surface, Harry cast several shield charms on the hatch they had fallen through. It was temporary, but would at least buy them some time. Anakin reached out for any weaknesses in the Force, but to their despair, he found no such weakness. It seemed the only way back up was through the trap. Sensing the shield charm and the hatch weakening, Harry had to think fast. With a quick nod to Anakin, who tightened the grip on his lightsaber, Harry cast a green-coloured charm, blasting the roof open. As shards of chromium plating fell to the floor. They were accompanied by the two figures of Count Dooku and Krell. Fortunately for the fallen Jedi, the shards meant that Anakin and Harry could not get off any sort of attack, allowing them to spring back to their feet. Igniting their blades, Anakin and Harry could tell the Krell struggled from the relatively low ceiling, and his Jarkai would be limited. However, Dooku and his efficient Makashi style would be perfect for the tight confines. Dooku lunged towards Harry, still angry at having disfigured his face on Skippy Oh, but Harry managed to cast a string of shield charms, blocking Dooku and allowing Anakin to sneak past and attack Krell. Dooku growled as he attempted to use Force Signing on Harry, but Harry rolled away and summoned a bird conjuring charm, which Dooku dissected with ease. Dooku then force pushed several wall-mounted candle holders into Harry's path, forcing Harry to cast another shield charm. Rebounding off of the shield, Harry casts a burning curse on the holders, and forces them back towards Dooku. Dooku attempts to swipe them away with his hand, but the heat causes him to wince. Shaking off this pain, Dooku lunges towards Harry, establishing those long-range attacks would be of no use. Harry uses his Seeker reflexes to dodge each attack, moving the battle back towards Anakin and Krell, where Anakin is getting the upper hand via his superior maneuverability. Without looking, Harry sends the chromium shards into Krell's leg with a banishing charm, allowing Anakin to cut off one of his legs. As Krell loses balance, his rage simmers, and he swings his arms wildly, force repulsing all of the room's occupants. As they recover, Harry casts a disillusionment charm on himself, and sneaks behind Krell, casting the most powerful exploding charm he could, shattering Krell to pieces. As Dooku groggily stood up, Harry bound him with ropes, as Anakin severed the Sith Lord's limbs, pointing his blade to his throat. With a quick stunning spell to Dooku's chest, Harry moved Dooku to the floor beneath the hatch, and together with Anakin, used Dooku's body to climb to the surface. R2 then used his rocket boosters, and pulled Dooku towards them with the help of Anakin. What they would do with the Sith Lord they had no idea, but something told him that it was best to keep him alive. Moving out of the strange room and into a more open area, they play back some of the information R2 absorbed from the manuscript. Anakin's eyes widened, as finally all of the pieces of the puzzle were put together. Ego Damaster II was no banker. He had been the Sith Lord Darth Plagueis. As R2 turned to the next page, Harry put his head in his hands. He had suspected it all along. The corruption in the Senate from his first breath in the Jedi archives. The murder of Chancellor Valorum. Dooku's appearance on the planet of Skippy Oh. It was Chancellor Palpatine who was the Sith Lord under the guise of Darth Sidious. Asking R2 to turn to the final page, Harry's suspicions were found to be correct. Looking closer, they find the name of Dooku and Sifo Dyas next to each other, and being recorded as discussing the creation of the clone army. Below that were the two words contributed by Darth Sidious. Order 66. Anakin and Harry had no idea what it was, but they had to get back to Coruscant as quickly as possible. Sprinting to their shuttle with the body of Dooku, They speed their way back, planning on how to kill the Sith Lord who had been under their noses all this time. With Anakin's immense piloting skills, the duo slide into the Jedi Temple hangar and off to the Council chambers. Barging their way in, they ask R2 to show the evidence of Palpatine's activities as written by the Sith historian and deposit the unconscious Dooku on the floor. Pointing a reviving spell at Dooku, Dooku's eyes flutter before creasing in pain. Windu gets up and immediately subdues the Sith Lord, before declaring that he should be the one to face Darth Sidious, along with select others. Yoda shakes his head, asking the Kareem Master to sit back down. Patience was needed at this time. Yoda firstly dispatches Shakti to Kamino, as she has the most knowledge of the cloning facilities, and the Council waits for her to deactivate Order 66 if possible. Unfortunately, after a long wait, Master T confirms that this was not possible, unless they were to manually remove the chips from all of the present clones. This was a huge dent in the Jedi Council's plans. Opting for their second option, the Jedi Council put all of the Jedi on alert, as they prepared to be betrayed by the clones. Harry, however, had other ideas. Yoda decided that Windu, Anakin and Harry should be the ones to go, with the other Council members remaining to protect the temple. Entering the Chancellor's office, Anakin enters first with Windu trailing behind. Harry, meanwhile, is under a disillusionment charm for now, and sneaks behind the duo. Palpatine swivels to meet the duo in his chair, smirking at the presence of the two Jedi. So, they had finally discovered his secret. Surely the Jedi Council weren't fool enough to send only 2 Jedi. Glancing at Anakin, he gives a rueful smile, sensing the potential within him wasted by the feeble Jedi. Standing up to meet the 2 Jedi, who are glaring at him, hands twitching towards their lightsabers, Sidious switches on his holocom, preparing for the end of the Jedi. But as he sees the figures of one of his commanders, he is struck in the mouth by a bolt, tying his tongue in a knot. Perhaps the Jedi were more unpredictable than he gave them credit for. Searching for the source of the attack, he glances behind Anakin, but couldn't see anybody. Putting his hands to his sides, he turns off his holocom for now, and ignites his crimson red lightsabers, as the Jedi do the same. Behind them, Harry was glad that the first part of the operation had been successful, but if what he had heard was true, this would be a much tougher opponent than Dooku. As Sidious lunged towards Anakin, Harry was immediately proven correct. If he thought Dooku was fast, then Sidious's speed was superhuman. But to his surprise, Windu and Anakin managed to keep pace, moving past him down the corridor. Moving closer to the battle, Harry couldn't cast a spell without risking hitting Anakin or Windu. He needed an opening. Fortunately for Harry, Sidious stepped back and deactivated one of his lightsabers, reached out his hand and unleashed Force Lightning upon the duo. As the duo blocked the attack, the light blinding the room, Harry fired off a string of hexes, forcing Sidious to stop his attack. Looking at the source of the attack, again, Sidious saw nothing, as Windu and Anakin simultaneously force pushed him into the wall. As Sidious managed to front flip off the wall, Harry was able to anticipate this and used a severing charm, slicing Sidious's shoulder. As Sidious staggered slightly, Anakin then enhanced his lead with the Force, and decapitated the Sith Lord, before falling to the floor in exhaustion. Undoing his disillusionment charm, Harry helped Windu to levitate Anakin, as the trio headed back towards the Jedi Temple. Feeling exhausted, the Jedi Temple guards are on hand to move Anakin to the Halls of Healing, whilst Windu and Harry head back to the Council chambers. They are greeted by bows, as Windu takes his seat and Harry sits in the centre. After a quick briefing, Harry requests to see Yoda in his meditation chamber, and not to his surprise, Qui-Gon's voice could be heard once more. It was now time for the Jedi to help Harry Potter. That is it for Season 1 of What If Harry Potter Was in Star Wars. If you'd like to see Season 2, please like this video and subscribe for more tips. And as always, leave a comment on what if you'd like to see next. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.